What is up everyone, and welcome to a pretty cool little video. And for those of you asking for home cinema stuff, this is kind of right up your street, but it's also good for any tech head out there because I'm basically going to be doing my home AV receiver on the cheap. Now, everything is a little bit confusing in my life at the moment, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this in this video because I might get outsiders coming into the channel watching and they don't want to hear all about my life. But basically, I told you guys that I was going to move down to Jess's house temporarily while our house was being prepared. Now that has changed, and Jess has actually moved in with me up here, so I'm still here with Jess in my parents' house. So what I want to do is put together an entertainment setup for us that is ideal, easy to use, because what I have at the moment is a really rough around the edges setup, and I needed a couple of things to make this happen. Now the problem is with my home theatre setup is I don't have a proper AV receiver. Now if you have an AV receiver, you can basically plug in a number of devices, HDMI devices, composite video devices, even audio stuff, and you can have it all outputting into wherever you want, and you can route everything, and it's basically an awesome solution. What I have is a home theatre in a box kit from years and years ago. An old Samsung home theatre in a box, I think mine's Samsung. Yeah, Samsung. A DVD player with a little amp built in, and you don't have nearly as much flexibility. So if you want to do a load of routing and get the audio in proper places and that, it can be really confusing. But anyway, I'll explain it all as I go along. I don't want to bore you guys too much with it at the beginning. Now, I have basically bought a few things from Amazon. I've ordered a few things and I can't quite remember what I've ordered. Now I'm hoping the thing that I want is actually in here. This package weighs a fair bit, so I guess it is. I don't know. I'm actually going to cut that just in case I slice through something important in here. Now I can't remember what I've ordered altogether, but as long as this one thing for my home theatre setup is in here, that's all I really care about. Okay, so I think it is. I think pretty much everything appears to be in here. And this is the boy. This is what I had to buy for over £30. It's still cheaper than buying an AV receiver, of course, but still fairly expensive. Now, what this does is allows me to extract the audio from my HDMI signal. Now, another confusing aspect to using my particular setup is I'm not using a television, I'm using a projector. So normally with a TV, you can jack everything into a TV, so a couple of HDMI sources, maybe a couple of standard def sources or whatever, and you can take an output from that TV. Most TVs come with Toslink output these days, and pretty much all TVs come with phono outputs. You can output in some kind of way from the TV into whatever home theatre amplifier or just standard amplifier you're using. But when you're using a projector, that can become a little bit more difficult. Now there is an audio output on the projector, but then I'd have to route another audio cable all around the room, and it's not ideal because it's a headphone jack, and I wanted proper discrete surround sound audio. So this is what they call a HDMI audio extractor. Now it's a small little device. If I just unwrap it here, and if you guys don't know what this is, basically it's the only way I could think of getting audio from my setup and to have everything routed properly. On this side, we have our HDMI in. This is the input. This is where you'd plug in your source. So say if you had a games console or a Blu-ray player, PS3, Xbox, whatever, you'd plug it in here. This is your input, of course. Now on the other side, you have a straight pass-through output. That is HDMI out. This is HDMI in. Now, of course, this isn't looking like much of a home receiver substitute, but bring in the other star of the show. I had this in my previous setup. This is a HDMI splitter. So using this, I can plug 3 HDMI sources into this. Okay, so in here, I'm going to be plugging in my Wii U, Jess's Xbox 360, and my Blu-ray player. They'll all go into here. The output of this will go into the input of this. By the way, this is a really cheapo HDMI switch. I do recommend probably going for an active one. That goes in there, and then we have an output there that goes round to the projector, and everyone is happy because the projector's got signal from these 3 things. But what does this do? Well, as the name suggests, it extracts the audio, and basically the most important aspect of this is it gives me audio via Toslink. So it'll take all the audio signals from all of the inputs and it'll output via this Toslink connection right here. I can plug this into the Toslink input on my home theatre in a box kit, which is not really a home theatre in a box kit anymore. I basically use the DVD player as an amplifier, but I haven't got the money to replace it with a proper home receiver. One day I'll do that. So here you've actually got your Toslink output, which is the one I'll be using, but you also get a couple of other audio output options. And of course, taking a look at this is the power adapter, because this is an active box, which is good because it means it will work. And of course it has to be active because Toslink is an optical connector, so it needs power to generate the optical light that actually travels through the cable. Now you can see they include a 3.5mm to female left and right RCA connector. This is so you can use RCA with the 3.5mm jack that's on this, so you actually get 4 output options, which is great. You get coaxial and Toslink for the digital output, and then the analog you get 3.5mm or phono, which is great. Now this little box, in conjunction with this and in conjunction with my home theatre amp, pretty much gives me a home receiver on the cheap. Now downsides to doing this is you have converters and adapters everywhere, and it's never going to be as proper and as reliable as a home receiver. And of course you have a couple of extra power plugs. If you use a proper HDMI switch that uses its own power source, then that will need its own power plug as well. So this is kind of a clunky setup, but once it's all hidden behind the shelves, it should be pretty much fine. That's if it works as well. I've got to remember that this actually needs to work to before I can credit it. So in this video, I will be setting up this little box and we'll be testing it out with the Wii U, the Xbox 360 and the Blu-ray player, and make sure everything works. I'm kind of doubtful about the audio with the Blu-rays and that, what with the you know, region lockouts and stuff. I don't know how that's all going to work, but I think we'll be able to get the consoles up and running, and hopefully the Blu-rays will be up and running as well. So that is that. This is about £33 on Amazon at the moment. One of these is about a £5, but if you want a decent one, I'd spend a tenner. So for under £50, not including the amplifier, this is, you know, assuming that you already have an amplifier. You've got a home receiver with full HDMI support for 3 devices, kind of on the cheap. But like I say, I'm going to make sure it works before I sing its praises too much. So everyone, it's great to be back behind the camera making videos. Basically, if you're wondering, there will be videos every now and again. I hoped to get this video out sooner, but it took me a while to get this stuff ordered and that. So yeah, we'll see how it goes, go with the flow. And of course, what with the little one on the way and everything, I will keep you guys totally updated. But all that aside, let's go and try out this funky little, rather expensive box and see if it does what it says on the tin. So welcome to the little entertainment kind of section of my room. This is a part of my room that I haven't focused on for probably years. Now, I've got lots going on here, but it's not all actually relevant to this video. Now, this video is all about high definition signals and HDMI and the extracting audio, or extracting audio from HDMI. So we're going to be ignoring this guy, and of course this guy. And we're just going to be focusing on getting a signal from these two consoles into this, and also into my projector. Now my Blu-ray player usually sits on top of this, but it's actually downstairs at the moment. Now unfortunately, I'm one HDMI cable short to be able to do this setup at this current moment in time, because I forgot that I needed a cable to actually attach the splitter to the extractor. So I'm one cable short. I may be able to dig one out somewhere, but it's not something that I really have that much of, because I haven't done a lot with this cable in the past, believe it or not. It's not until I actually got this projector not too long ago that I started using HDMI in my bedroom. So the general plan is, this is the HDMI coming from the projector. So this connects to the projector, that's the easy part. This audio cable here, let's move this N64 controller out of the way. This audio cable here is basically attached to the back of the amp, and this is for all of the analog stuff. Now we're going to be ignoring this because I don't have an analog setup either, but it's not something that I'm prioritizing at the moment. I haven't had one in ages. This is just left over from when I did. This went into like a SCART splitter, and I took composite video back to the projector. It was pretty rough, but it was what it was. So this used to go into the back of the Blu-ray player and go straight to the projector, and I used Toslink from the back of the Blu-ray straight into the back of the amp. But all of that is changing because we are introducing these splitters and whatnot. So what I'm going to do is move these controllers out of the way so that we can actually begin routing some wiring. if I move the GameCube itself out the way as well, it's not actually wired in. Now, a couple of the things that we need are, of course, a Toslink cable. This is to connect the extractor to the home cinema system. This will give us full Dolby 5.1 surround sound, discrete, which is great. I've got the one extra HDMI cable that I have found. I've already got HDMI coming out of the Wii U and the Xbox 360, but this one extra one is to go in the output of this guy, so that we can connect to the extractor, like I said. Okay, so I've basically got nearly all of the wiring that I need, but I've got enough to at least demo some of this setup in this video. I'm probably going to leave the Blu-ray player downstairs for now, until I get my hands on another HDMI cable and stuff, but it's handy for family films and stuff. So, here we have the power adapter. The first thing I want to do is plug this guy in underneath. So this is a little transformer. It's not too bulky, which is great. If I route this around the back. Now my general plan is, where you guys saw that yellow N64 controller, that's where I'm going to put the splitter and stuff, because it'll be easy to get to. So naturally, I do that every time I fiddle with this setup. The Xbox touch controls, in my opinion, are just a pain in the ass. Anyway, there is the power cable for that. So, we'll plug that in there. So step one, we have a power light on there, which is great. Now, this little switch that I didn't cover, next to the power connection here, I didn't cover this in the beginning of the video. The little switch that says A and B basically means if it's set to B, it will detect the audio source from the sources. It'll detect the audio codec, so it'll detect whether it's outputting a Dolby Pro Logic, Dolby 5.1, DTS 5.1, whatever. That's what it'll do in position B. But in position A, it will convert everything to whatever the television is accepting. So of course, I'm going to go with position B, obviously, because the projector has nothing to do with audio in this setup. Now, talking of these things, we may as well connect the projector to the HDMI out. And that means we are getting pretty much a pass-through right now. Now, let's grab this Toslink cable. And this Toslink cable is going into the Toslink output, next to the HDMI output there. Whoops, didn't quite plug that in properly. There we go, that's clicked into place. And now, we will stick this in the back of the amp, if I can remember where the connector is. Alright guys, we are in. Fully connected, which is good. So, our audio is connected, our video is connected, it's time to connect some sources. And this is actually going to be pretty easy because I've got all the cabling just lying there, I can actually see it. So if I bring the HDMI up from the Xbox, here we have another HDMI connector. This will be going into, let's put this into number 2. We'll put the Blu-ray player in 3 and the Wii U in 1. So the Wii U HDMI is here, number 1, input 1. Great stuff. And of course now the output from the splitter is going into the input of the extractor. So as you guys can tell, it's a bit of a rat's nest, but that is what it is. And it should, in theory, do a very similar job to a home theatre receiver, a proper one. So let's power this up. That actually looks horrendous. Yeah, I'll probably look on eBay for a cheap receiver. Okay, so if we go on to digital in, we should be pretty much laughing now. So the amplifier is on. If I go back and turn the projector on, so while the projector is heating up, I am going to attempt to put all this back here. Now, I will never need to reach this. There are no settings or controls on this. So this can go all the way back there out of the way. Right back there. If I can shove it as far back as possible. But sometimes I need to reach this HDMI switch, and this is my only complaint with these cheap switches, because you have like a button on it and that's the source selector, and sometimes it goes wrong because it does have auto selection, but I will need to put that somewhere where I can jab it. So let's just shove it all back there for now. So that is what it is. The projector is set to HDMI in, surround sound set to digital in. What I'm going to do is give you guys a new angle and try it out live on camera to see if it works with both video and audio. We'll try out my Wii U because I've been dying to play some Wii U. I'm actually going to try this live on camera. A classic rough around the edges random IMNC video here, guys. Got the camera pointing up at such a weird angle. Anyway, we're just going to see if it works. Got my gamepad. 3, 2, 1, go. Wii U is powering on, and we should get some video very, very soon, please, which would be nice. Oh yes. First thing accomplished, we have HDMI video. Excellent. Now, at this current moment in time, we have no audio. But, wait 1 second. Yes, we do. We have audio. Fantastic, guys. Fantastic. Now, what I am going to do is go into the system settings. I thought the audio wasn't working for a second then, I was just about to go mental. So I'm going to jump into system settings, and I'm actually going to change the output to 5.1. Okay, so TV sound output type is set to stereo at the moment. We're going to sample surround to see if it works. Interesting. We're missing a couple of channels on surround for some reason. Yeah, we're missing a couple of channels there, guys. Hang on a second. Let me check the mode on the receiver. Alright guys, I'm going to pause for now to figure out some of these settings to see if I can get true surround sound from this Wii U.
Start your engine! Let's go!
So guys, I've finally got it working. Question is there any lag with all of these devices? I'm not sure if there is, or whether it was just me. Let's have a little look. Well guys, at this current moment in time I can't really tell if there's any lag. It seems to feel okay to play, so that's really good. And I'm not used to playing on the projector anyway, so I'll see how it goes. But audio-wise, it sounds fantastic. All of the music coming from, you know, the left and right, and all of the sound effects coming from the center, and like you can hear shells behind you and stuff. It's really, really cool. So pretty pleased with that. Now all that's left to do is turn off the Wii U. So let's power down the Wii U, and all I'm going to do is hit the power button on the 360, and if it boots up, I reckon we are sorted. So let's do that. We should have audio and video from this 360. Interesting. It started... Yes, it's fine. It is fine, it just took a little while there. Okay, so we can't see it. Ah, here we are. Excellent. So let's have another go. There we have it. Sorted. Job done. And we also have audio. So that was rather successful, I reckon. Console's not connected online yet. Okay, that's cool. But yeah, audio is working great, everyone, and I could tell from the intro that it was in surround sound, so only time will tell. As you guys can pretty much tell, everything is looking and sounding great. Now, I know I haven't tested the Blu-ray player in this setup. I just don't have enough HDMI cables, but I will be sure to test that in the future and keep you guys updated. Well everyone, I've just blasted through a little bit of F-Zero and everything is looking and sounding absolutely great. So far, I'm really pleased with this setup. Now, this is not ideal. Ideally, you'd have a home receiver and that would really sort out any little issues that you'd have. I've got a lot of issues with output settings and input settings of various devices and a couple of conflicts, and it will never ever be as flexible and as reliable as a proper home receiver. But this is one heck of a lot cheaper and it helps me utilize equipment that I already have. Now something like this Samsung component from an all-in-one theatre in a box kit, whatever, something like that is not worth anything. It's not worth absolutely anything right now, especially because it's a DVD model and not a Blu-ray model. So if I was to sell it, I would get hardly anything for it, so I'd have to fund an AV receiver from somewhere else. But that Samsung does everything I need just fine. It's got more than enough power for this room. I run, it goes up to 50 volume-wise, and I run most games comfortably at around 16 to 18. And if I want to play them loud, I can crank it up to around 24, and I run most films at around 26. So I'm pretty much halfway there on the volume. It's got more than enough power. It's 5.1, it supports all my speakers fantastically, so what I'm saying is I don't see the point in upgrading because this does exactly what I want to do. You know, if I get a flood of money from somewhere one day, then yes, I would love to get a proper AV receiver, but for now this little setup will work fine, and there are enough inputs and outputs here, there and everywhere after buying a few adapters to make everything work. So I assume the Blu-ray player is going to work, only time will tell. I may update you guys on that in the future, but this is basically my setup as it stands now. If I quickly tilt the camera up, you guys will be able to see F-Zero sitting up there. That is basically how everything is looking. I hope you guys like it. It's by no means ideal, but this is temporary. As you guys know, I'll be moving house very soon, hopefully, and this is a temporary setup to get us by with some entertainment. So, hope you guys have really enjoyed this video, and of course, as always, I will see you in the next one.